Welcome to the Big Talk podcast, where we chat all things business and personal development related, totally unfiltered and unscripted. I'm your host, Amanda Davies, and I'm here to help you transform into the leader you were born to be, stand apart from the competition, and most importantly, share your message with the world in a big, big way. Are you ready? Welcome once again to Big Talk. Hey guys, welcome back to this week's episode. So I wanted to talk about something today that I've been posting about recently on Instagram, which is this whole concept in marketing where if you're not turning anybody off with your message, you're not turning anybody on either. So I really wanted to talk about this today. I want to talk about the power of having quite polarizing messaging in your marketing. I want to talk about some of the blocks that people experience around actually stepping into that style of marketing, but also how you can do it in a way that's not, fanatical and weird and kind of like, cringy or in people's faces either. How it actually really just comes down to taking a stand for something and really understanding exactly what you're all about in business, in life, in terms of your personality and what value you really provide to your people and to your audience. So I wanted to kind of kick this off with a story, and I shared this recently as well, but essentially it was some time ago, but a friend of mine, someone who was sort of fairly close friend at the time, once said to me, Amanda, I think it's great what you're doing, but I just can't read your posts. Like, I just can't stand looking at them. Your writing kind of makes me feel a bit cringy and it just makes me feel a bit weird, and more power to you, but I just can't read your stuff. Okay. And for those of you who have followed me for some time, or even if you're new to me, you know that I speak all about building your business, all about success, spirituality, success on your own terms, and really creating the life that you say that you want and taking bold moves to make it happen. And so I remember sitting there thinking, oh my God, I can't believe this person just said that to me. Number one, I'm like, what? Where's your tact, man? But also, like, what am I doing wrong? So I really took this on at the time. And I remember sort of going home and thinking about this person's words to me. And I felt really upset, actually. I felt really upset. And I remember thinking, oh my God, like, is my writing just not great? Is my content really rubbish? Do people that are closest to me in my life just think that I'm some kind of a joke? Who the hell am I to do this work anyway? And so I started spiraling around what it is that I'm doing in my content and the work that I create in the world, which, I wanted to share really openly with you because I know it's something that so many of us and so many of you struggle with also. And like I said, this was some time ago now, but I know particularly when I started my business sort of back in the early days, 7 years ago, I would feel this way a lot. I would feel like, oh my God, people are judging me. People are looking at me. All of my ex-colleagues are going to think that I'm a joke. And my family, why aren't my family engaging on my content? And I would just sort of start to really take it on. And I'm hyper vigilant as well around stuff like that too. I'm quite a sensitive person, as I know many of you are too. So we're always kind of looking for and anticipating these sorts of reactions. And trust me, as you move through and as you start to build your confidence and your certainty in your business, this stuff does simmer down, because eventually it's like the mission and the cause and whatever it is that you're here to do in the world just becomes so much bigger than other people's judgments. But I wanted to kind of share this story because I know so many of you can probably relate to this, even if someone hasn't said those sorts of words to you directly. Maybe it's something that you're worried about, or maybe it's something that you're thinking is potentially happening behind the scenes. So this is where I wanted to kind of dive a little bit deeper, actually, because what happened in that moment, with their trigger, the fact that I obviously triggered them with my content, the fact that I was then triggered by their comments to me. I just think it's such a beautiful example of how our shadow and how our subconscious mind starts to interact with others in relationship. Okay, so this is what I really wanted to talk about today. And then I'm going to kind of link this back to marketing and your messaging, and going back to what I was saying at the beginning about turning people on and turning people off with your messaging. Okay. So as I said, like, I remember feeling so hurt and upset by this person's words at the time. And I was like, oh my God. And I kind of had like a little pity party and, thought, oh, maybe I should just not do this anymore. And, because we all go there as like highly strung and highly sensitive people, right? But, I remember at the time sort of journaling on this a little bit, and I was trying to really sit with the feeling that I was experiencing and really work through what was actually going on behind this upset that I was feeling, this trigger that I was feeling. Okay. And something really powerful in this moment came through, which was that I realized it wasn't about me. And I remember at the time, my understanding of the shadow and the subconscious mind was certainly not as developed as it is now. But I remember sort of thinking at the time that I was actually triggering this person. My posts, my content, my thoughts, my expression, all of this stuff was triggering to my friend. Okay. So the fact that I was very open, I'm always very open, with my content. I'm very self-expressed with my content too. A lot of my work is creative work. It takes courage, to put yourself out there in front of thousands of people too. So if you really break this down, things like my openness, my creativity, my self-expression, my courage, in getting visible, those sort of core 4 elements were really triggering to my friend's shadow. All right, because this is how the shadow works. Likewise, I was really triggered by my shadow, was triggered by this person's kind of, I guess, coldness in the moment. I was triggered by feeling judged. I really don't like feeling judged. I was feeling like, oh my God, I'm not doing a good job. Okay, another one of my big triggers. So it's like this is where our shadow starts to really play into other people's shadows. And this is where, and I'm not a relationship coach, but I know this is where a lot of arguments can come about. This is where relationships start to break down, because what we're doing is we're triggering each other's subconscious in our daily interactions. And if we don't have the awareness and the understanding of what the hell is going on, this is where relationships can really spiral, okay, out of control. All right. So this is where, as I was saying, my openness, my self-expression, creativity, my courage and visibility was really triggering their shadow. And just to explain a little bit more about how the shadow works, everything that triggers us in our relationships, in our business, if we're scrolling through Instagram and suddenly we see someone and we think, oh my God, why can't I be more like that? Or we just have like a feeling that comes up, like a jealous feeling or an envious feeling or a sick feeling or a cringe feeling or a, oh my God type feeling, angry, sad, whatever it happens to be. It's essentially, it's a signal from our shadow. Okay. It's a signal from our subconscious mind about actually what is in there and what needs to be revealed and what's begging to be seen. Okay. So those qualities, again, just to kind of run with this example, just to illustrate it, the qualities that I was showing around openness and self-expression, for example, those qualities are within my friend's shadow. Okay. Because the way that these sorts of qualities get put into our shadow is through usually learned experiences through childhood and growing up developmentally as well. Typically, these experiences or these values or these ways of being or existing or these behaviors aren't valued. Okay. And we've all got different things in our shadows based on our upbringing and whatnot. But for example, and I know this of my friend too, things like openness, things like self-expression, things like creativity were not valued or rewarded in this person's life growing up. And I can see this so clearly now. All right. I know this about my friend. I've got the privilege of understanding their background as well. And obviously I'm not naming any names here, but this stuff was not valued in their life at the time. So guess what? It went into the shadow. What was really valued in my friend's life was the direct opposite of that. Not being open, sort of being a little bit more stiff upper lipped. All right. Not being particularly creative, things like science and logical stuff, maths, all of that sort of stuff was valued in this person's life. Okay. Growing up, that was the real push. That was where the focus was. So all of those kind of elements that were the direct opposite of that, creativity, expression, went into this person's shadow. Got it? Same with me. Let's look at my shadow. Things like feeling judged. Okay. I don't like feeling judged. That creates a massive trigger for me. I don't like feeling like I can't be open and I can't be expressive. Okay. So all of this stuff was in my shadow too. So if you think about the traits that my friend was showing, maybe a little bit of criticism, maybe a little bit of closed-mindedness, maybe a little bit of not valuing creativity or self-expression, those aspects are in my shadow. Got it? This is how it works. But this is also where we have our greatest potential, access to our greatest potential as well, because as soon as we can start to see what is actually within our shadow and what's really speaking to us through triggers, through these gut level reactions, this is where we can start to get really curious. And this is the invitation to do the work, whether it's in your relationships or whether it's in your business, which I'm going to come back to in a sec. But really our triggers and our judgments and our strong, think about those strong emotional reactions you've ever had in your life. Usually that's an invitation and a hint to discover around, what you're hiding or what your unconscious desires really are, where your secret genius and potential lies, where you maybe still need some healing. Because I know deep down, I know that my friend is incredibly creative and incredibly expressed. Okay. But all of that stuff has been repressed. Got it? And so this is where it's where Jung talks about the golden shadow. All right. And if we can access some of those positive elements of the shadow as well and start to bring those forward and release the fear around bringing those aspects forward, obviously we can start to apply those incredible golden shadow elements to our life and to our work and to our relationships. But likewise, some of the darker stuff is in the shadow too. So for example, and that was probably more me in that example, sort of closed-mindedness, a lack of expression, a coldness as well. One of my big values is warmth. But it's like, if I was to look at and explore those things that are in my shadow, you wouldn't necessarily say they're my golden shadow at all. This is where the shadow has both light and dark qualities. All right. So you've got the incredible stuff there that we can access, but then we've also got the invitation to do the deeper work too. So this is where I could do the deeper work, for example, around what's the real fear behind being seen as cold or lacking in warmth or lacking creativity or stiff upper lipped. Where is that holding me back? Why am I so afraid of being seen or perceived that way? All right, so this is where the invitation is to either do the work and dig more and excavate, or the invitation is to bring forward and call forward the golden shadow. All right, so I really hope this example just kind of brings it to life a little bit. It's so fascinating. It really is. I could talk about this stuff all day. But really bringing this back to business, okay, it's really important to know and understand that you will trigger people in your audience. You will trigger your clients. You will trigger people in your life who may be observing from the sidelines as well. You will trigger people on this business building journey. All right. And you will be triggered too, is the other side of that. And so I think this is where the invitation to do the work is as well. And bringing this back to your messaging and to your marketing, I think it's when you can bring this awareness into the content you create, the videos you create, the posts you write, when you know that you are going to be triggering people, when you know that actually not everyone's going to be freaking down with your message, some people just aren't going to like you, you can start to release some of the fear of judgment that really kind of creeps up on us when we start embarking on this journey. You can start to release the fears of judgment. You can start to release the kind of like, oh, but I've got to kind of water down my message to suit everybody. No, because actually from a marketing perspective too, this is where shadow work and marketing are just so interlinked, and it's fascinating. But you can then start to create and craft incredible messaging that really appeals to the people who need what you've got, the people who love your message, who want more of your message, who want to be in your vortex, the people whose golden shadow you inspire and can call forward. But you also want to repel the people who are just like, they're never going to get you. They're not prepared to do their own shadow work. They're not the ones that are really going to buy your stuff. They might hate on you from the sidelines or secretly watch your stories or whatever. But it's like, actually, they're just going to stay in that shadow place. So the real power of creating and crafting content and messaging that turns people on or turns people off is so powerful. And this is the stuff that I cover in all of my mastermind programs, my private coaching programs too, because taking a stand for something really means that you need to do the shadow work. You need to understand what you stand for, what you stand against, where your triggers are, how you're going to be triggering other people potentially as well, in a good way, in a quote unquote bad way. And so this is all about really understanding yourself as a marketer and as a business owner, but also as a person as well, as a human being, as someone who is the face of your company. All right. So this is this whole messaging piece, this potent messaging, bringing in some of the shadow elements as well, is something that I really cover in my mastermind program. In particular, we have a whole section on messaging, because really you can have the most, the prettiest website and the awesomest Instagram feed and, like all of the followers. But if your messaging is just off, if it's not triggering people in the right way, and if it's not triggering some people in the wrong way as well, your business is only going to get so far. So the real power of this polarizing of your message is it's incredible. It really is. I've seen this more in my business too, because as I've started to obviously develop my content more, as I've started to feel into what I really stand for and stand against, what I just think is absolute bullshit in the industry or whatever, as well as I've become to know myself, it means that my messaging is becoming deeper and more potent, and it's calling out to the right people. Okay. Whereas in the beginning, and I'm sure some of you can relate to this too, but I was trying to speak to everybody with my messaging, because it's like, I don't want to offend people, but I also have this deep fear of missing out as well. And, and that's understandable. I think when you're starting to build your business, it's like, I don't want to miss out on a sale, and, all of this sort of stuff. I don't want to get any hate comments or trolls and all this sort of stuff too. And, the reality is, guys, is that you will get that stuff if you take a stand for something, if you make that commitment to turning your people on and turning the wrong people off by doing your own shadow work, understanding where your triggers are, understanding where your audience's triggers are too. Okay. Understanding that what effective marketing really does is create that visceral gut reaction in people. Visceral gut reaction. That's how you know you're taking a stand. That's how you know that you're being bold. That's how you know that you're calling out to the right people. Okay. And guess what happens when you start to call out to the right people? Revenue, cash flow, clients, lead flow, organic growth, all of those sorts of things, but also more joy and more alignment for you as well. Super, super powerful. So there's a couple of announcements that I had that I wanted to share with you at the end of this. If you're interested, obviously, in understanding a little bit more about how to grow your business, how to really take a stand for things, how to show up as that incredible leader that you are supposed to be in your industry, then definitely reach out. You're very welcome to book a complimentary business breakthrough call with me this week. There's only one of me, so spaces are obviously limited, but what I really like to do on those calls, there's no big sales pitch or anything like that. There's no strong arm sales tactics to try and get you into one of my programs. It's a conversation, because I think if I can help you, or if I can't help you, whichever way it sort of ends up going, you're going to get massive value either way, because you're going to get clear on those next steps. So whether one of those next steps is working together and we can explore that, or whether it's working with someone else or doing something else, that's all the stuff that we're going to talk about. But in order to get there, I first need to understand, what are your challenges? How are you butting up against this stuff? Where are your real fears in business? Where are you not showing up fully and completely? Where are you a little bit afraid of maybe missing out? Or where are your fear of judgments coming in? We need to explore all of this stuff, okay? Because I've said this like a million times, but you can have all of the best things, like the website and the followers and the feed, and you can have an amazing sales funnel and be doing all of the strategic things. But if you don't have this kind of beating heart and soul to your business dialed in, which is your content, which is your messaging, which is your presence and your energetic vortex, like really, if you don't have that stuff dialed in, it's like an empty shell that you've created, a very pretty empty shell that people think, oh, that's nice, and then move on to the next thing. So I'm really here to help you create an incredible, potent brand. Doesn't mean that your brand has to be the biggest. Doesn't mean you have to have 10,000 or 100,000 or 1,000,000 followers. It doesn't matter. But it's about really creating a stand and really speaking to those people that you're supposed to speak to. So this starts with us having a conversation. All right. I really want to understand where you're at, what's holding you back right now. And most importantly, where do you want to be? What's your vision? So that's the stuff that we can talk about. And if it's a fit for you to join one of my business mastermind programs or private coaching, or even to join my private shadow coaching as well, we can discuss all of that on the call too, because either way, there's an offer for you based on sort of where you're at with things. But again, like I said, if there's something else that you need to, I'm very happy to point you in the right directions. All right. So look, I hope this episode helped you. It was kind of a quick one today, but I just think that it's really, really powerful. I wanted to share that story with you too. And I just think it's so relevant to so many of you who are worried about being judged or worried about pissing people off or polarizing people as well. So really the key to unlocking that fear is by looking at the shadow, is really by looking at, well, why are you really afraid of this stuff? What's really going on? And then most importantly, how can we release that and help you move forward as well? Any questions, feel free to drop me an email, amanda@lightpurposeliving.com. Or as I said, absolutely, you are very, very welcome to book one of those business breakthrough calls as well. I would say they are for service businesses only. So coaches, consultants, therapists, healers, wellness pros. So if you're a product business or if you have a multi-level marketing business, I'm very sorry, but I'm not the right fit for you. That's a very specialist area of knowledge. Okay. So please feel free to book one of those calls. I'd be happy to jump on a 40-minute conversation with you this week, and we can talk about where you're at and where you want to be. Okay. Hope this episode served you guys. Take care. Bye. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Big Talk podcast today. If you have enjoyed this episode, then please do leave us a review and share it with your friends. For further information about our programs and free content, head on over to lightpurposeliving.com. See you soon.